Previously, Alexander the Great spent 12 years building the biggest empire anyone had ever seen. Never lost a battle, conquered Persia, went to India twice, built a navy, and generally refused to stop. Then he came west and fought Rome, the toughest opponent of his life, and still won. Rome, being Rome, didn't surrender. They negotiated, which Alexander respected, so he let them keep their whole system and folded them into the empire. And now Alexander has entered Rome. He's looking around. He's impressed by the engineering. He has questions, specifically one very fundamental question that no one in Rome is quite prepared to answer. Who's actually in charge here? He visits the temples, is moderately impressed by the engineering, and asks why Romans don't have a king. We have a senate, says a senator. Yes, but who's in charge of the senate? The senate is in charge of the senate. Right, but who tells the senate what to do? The senate tells the senate what to do. Through voting? Through voting. Alexander stared at him for a very long time. And you find this efficient? We find it Roman. That's not an answer. In Rome, it is. Here is Alexander's real problem. He has conquered, at this point, everything from Greece to India to Arabia to Italy. This empire is so large that a messenger riding hard takes 3 months to get from one end to the other. Alexander is one person. He cannot be everywhere, and here's a real historical fact. Alexander was already experimenting with administrative solutions before he died in our timeline. He was incorporating Persian nobles into his government. He was training a new generation of mixed Greek-Persian soldiers. He was attempting to merge Greek and Persian culture. He was, essentially, trying to build something new, because nothing that existed was big enough for what he'd created. In our timeline, he died before figuring it out. In this timeline, he has to figure it out. The empire is too big, said his treasurer Harpalus, who had previously embezzled a large amount of money and run away, and had been brought back in a state of some embarrassment and, notably, still had his head. I know, said Alexander. We need administrators. I know. Local governors. Loyal ones. Everyone I trust is either dead or already running a piece of the empire and has started acting suspicious. What about your son? He's 9. Right. What about the Romans? Harpalus blinked. The Romans, who we just conquered. They have a whole system. Local magistrates, laws, written laws. The same laws everywhere. It's honestly embarrassing how effective it is. You want to use the administrative system of the people we just defeated to run an empire they don't know they're part of yet. I want to use whatever works. I don't have time for pride. I have 3 continents. This is genuinely what Alexander would have done. He had done this his entire career. Use what works, ignore what doesn't. This is how you conquer things. He adopts a hybrid system. Macedonian military command structure at the top, Persian provincial administration in the middle, local customs and laws left largely intact at the bottom. And then he does something that shocks everyone. He begins standardizing trade, one currency, one system of weights and measures, the same coin from the Adriatic to the Indus. Merchants weep with joy. Tax collectors weep with a different emotion. Here's what the historians often miss when they talk about Alexander's empire. The most important thing about connecting the ancient world wasn't the military conquest, it was what happened after. Greek engineers in Babylon, working alongside Babylonian astronomers who had been tracking the stars for centuries, began producing something that looks remarkably like the foundation of trigonometry. A Greek mathematician named Ctesibius, who was real by the way, had already invented a water-powered organ and a compressed air catapult. In Alexander's extended empire, with massive military funding and a direct line to Indian and Persian metalworking traditions, his work gets taken seriously. 50 years after Alexander's survival, there are rudimentary steam-powered devices being used to pump water out of mines in what is now Iraq. Nobody calls it a revolution. They call it the mine pump thing, but it works. And it gets bigger. Greek doctors, now trading knowledge directly with Indian Ayurvedic physicians and Egyptian practitioners, begin to understand things about disease that they wouldn't figure out in our timeline for another 1,500 years. The germ theory of disease? Not quite. But wash your hands, cover wounds, and don't drink standing water spreads through the empire's military as practical doctrine. Alexander's own near-death experience from fever has made him personally invested in this. Everyone washes their hands, he announces at a military assembly. My lord, says a general, hands, wash them, before eating, after battle, after touching literally anything in a camp. That seems very small for a decree from the conqueror of the known world. I almost died from a fever at a party. I am issuing a decree about hand washing. These 2 facts are related. Should we put it on a monument? Put it on every monument. The army washes their hands. Deaths from infected wounds drop noticeably. Everyone assumes it's divine favor. It's soap. It's 305 BC. Alexander is 51 years old. He has ruled the largest empire in the world for 32 years, and his generals are tired of him. Not all of them, but several of them. Ptolemy has been running Egypt like his own personal kingdom for years. He has pyramids, he has philosophers, he has a library in Alexandria that he refers to, with zero subtlety, as my library. Seleucus is running the eastern provinces, and has slowly been acting less like a governor, and more like a king, which everyone has noticed and no one has said anything about. Even in Macedonia, there is grumbling. Alexander's been gone for 30 years, said a Macedonian nobleman. He's the king, said another. Yes, but he's barely Macedonian anymore. He dresses like a Persian. He meditates. He told me last week that Indian philosophy had genuinely interesting points about the nature of the self. What did you say? I said yes, my lord, and then walked very quickly in the other direction. Smart. He has 4 wives. Also concerning. His heir is half Persian. Very concerning. I'm just saying, maybe it's time for a change. Maybe don't say that too loudly. I'm saying it at a normal volume. Say it quieter. The rebellion starts in Macedonia. It is not well organized. Here's the thing about Alexander. He survived every battle he ever fought in his life by doing the unexpected thing at maximum speed. The rebellion is no different. He is in Babylon when he hears about it. He is in Macedonia 3 weeks later. The rebels, who had expected months of preparation time, find Alexander standing in front of them with a Macedonian phalanx and an expression of profound personal disappointment. You, said Alexander, looking at the lead rebel, a nobleman named Antigonus the Younger, are an idiot. I was coming home anyway. I was planning a visit. You couldn't wait 3 weeks? We didn't know that. You could have sent a letter. Dear Alexander, are you planning to visit? Asking for a rebellion. I would have written back. Kings don't typically respond to letters asking if they're about to be deposed. I respond to everything. I have a whole system. He gestured vaguely at the administration he'd built. We standardized correspondence. Antigonus the Younger had no response to this. Still, you're an idiot. The rebellion collapses before it really starts. Alexander, in a move that surprises everyone, does not execute the leaders. He recruits them. You clearly have organizational skills, he says to Antigonus. You coordinated a rebellion across 5 provinces without a standardized courier system, which is actually impressive. I want you running tax collection in Greece. Antigonus blinks. You're not going to kill me? Why would I kill you? Dead? You're nothing. Alive and working for me? You're an asset. This is basic resource management. That is a terrifying way to think about people. I conquered the world. Did you think I did it by being inefficient? Alexander lives in our alternate timeline until approximately 294 BC. He dies at age 62. Not of fever, not of battle, but of a heart attack. His doctor, Glaucius, now very old, sits next to him. I told you to stop drinking eventually, said Glaucius. I cut back significantly. You drank an amphora of wine last week. Compared to how I used to drink, that's practically water. It is not practically water. Glaucius, I conquered the known world. I turned Rome into a province. I invented hand washing as imperial policy. I think I've earned an amphora. You're dying. I'm dying having one. That's different. It really isn't. You've always been terrible at bedside manner. You've always been terrible at listening to doctors. We made a good team, said Alexander. I kept you alive for 30 extra years. Exactly. Good team. He leaves behind an empire with a functioning, if imperfect, administrative system, a standardized currency, the world's largest library in Alexandria, trade routes connecting the Atlantic to India, and a son, Alexander IV, who has been trained his entire life for this moment. Here is where it gets complicated, because Alexander IV is not Alexander III. He's intelligent. He's educated. Ptolemy has made sure of that, the Library of Alexandria being his pet project. He speaks 6 languages. He understands both Greek and Persian administrative systems, but he is not a conqueror, and the empire his father built was built for a conqueror. Alexander IV makes a choice that his father never would have made. He stops expanding. We have enough, he says at his first council meeting. The generals stare at him. My lord, we have enough land. Enough people. More, actually. Possibly too many people. Let's figure out how to run what we have before we acquire more problems. A long silence. Your father would never have said that, said one old general. My father also almost died at a party because he drank too much, said Alexander IV. I have studied his example carefully and drawn different conclusions. He institutes what historians in our alternate timeline would call the Great Consolidation, codified laws, written in Greek and distributed across the empire, expanded road networks, state-funded schools in every major city. The Library of Alexandria becomes a university. And those steam-powered mine pumps, someone figures out how to make them bigger. It is now, in our alternate timeline, roughly 100 AD. Let's take a moment. Rome never independently developed its empire. Rome is a prosperous, powerful, but ultimately provincial region within the larger Alexandrian world order. Roman law became the legal standard for the western half of the empire. Greek culture dominates the east. In the middle, a fascinating hybrid of Persian, Greek, Indian, and now Roman ideas is producing something new. Christianity? It still emerges. Jesus of Nazareth still lives and teaches in Judea, which is a province of the empire. But in this timeline, the empire already has a policy of religious tolerance. Alexander established it. It stuck. And Christianity spreads faster because there's no persecution. The Roman emperor, in our timeline, eventually converts and makes Christianity the official religion of the empire. In this timeline, the emperor of the Alexandrian Empire looks at Christianity, looks at the Greek philosophical tradition, looks at Persian Zoroastrianism, looks at Indian traditions coming through the trade routes, and says, all of these have interesting things. We'll allow all of them. Christianity becomes one of several major religions. It grows, but it does not dominate. The Islamic world that would emerge in our timeline in the 7th century? Different. Muhammad still exists. Islam still emerges in Arabia. But Arabia has been part of a larger connected world for 600 years now. Islamic scholarship immediately connects with Greek philosophy, which happened in our timeline too, a few centuries later. But here it happens immediately. And the scientific and mathematical explosion is extraordinary. The steam engines that were being built in 250 BC have become, by 100 AD, genuine industrial devices. Not quite industrial revolution level, but real. There are pumps in every major mine. There are mechanical looms in the textile districts of Alexandria. A Greek engineer in Antioch has built a device that uses steam to move a cart. Nobody takes the cart seriously yet. But it moves. What does the year 2025 look like? Here's the honest answer. We can't know for sure. Chaos theory applies. A butterfly flaps its wings and so on. But we can make some educated guesses. The Industrial Revolution almost certainly happens earlier, possibly by 800 or 900 years. If the Roman Empire's fall in our timeline set back technological progress by approximately 5 centuries, which some historians estimate, then a world where Rome never collapses, where the Library of Alexandria never burns, where Greek engineering traditions are continuously built upon rather than lost. The math is different. Does that mean flying cars in 1200 AD? No. It means the pace of development is steadier, broader, more connected. A world that in our timeline figured out germ theory in the 1860s might have figured it out in the 1200s. A world that built its first steam engine in 1712 might have built it in 900 AD. A world that had the internet in 1991 might have had it in 1650, maybe earlier. And politically, one superpower for 2,000 years tends to create a kind of stability that our world never quite managed. Not a perfect stability, rebellions, civil wars, periods of fracture and reunification, but no dark ages. No centuries of complete collapse. The world, broadly, is more connected, more educated, and more technologically advanced. Whether it is happier is a different question. Empires are rarely kind to everyone inside them. But the trade routes are excellent. So there you have it. Alexander the Great drinks some water, doesn't die, conquers Arabia, reinvades India, beats Rome, gets a rebellion, wins the rebellion, promotes the rebel, lives to 62, leaves behind an heir who is actually sensible, and accidentally causes the Industrial Revolution to happen 1,000 years early, all because his doctor made him drink water. Stay hydrated. And maybe don't drink an entire amphora of wine at a party. His doctor tried to tell him that too. He didn't listen to that part. Glaucius. I think I'm dying. You're not dying. Drink the water. I conquered the known world. Yes, drink the water. I want wine. Water. You are genuinely the worst doctor I have ever had. I am the only reason you are not already dead. I have other doctors. Name one. Bring me the water.